The start, my ex and I were 19 when she got pregnant. We had recently broke up and she found out a couple weeks later that she was pregnant. She said she planned to get an abortion but only wanted her sister there. So I was always under the belief that she had aborted. She only contacted me once saying it was done and we didn't speak again. Fast forward 19 years later, I found out a month ago that was a lie. My ex passed away 3 years ago and my daughter Cara has been living with her uncle. He was the one to reach out to give me a heads up after she expressed an interest in wanting us to connect. He and I spoke at length because I was feeling some pretty strong emotions like rage for never being told about her. My ex had backed out of the abortion but didn't want me involved because we were broken up, so decided just not to tell me. But he told me that Cara doesn't know about that. Apparently I wasn't ready for fatherhood because we were both young, so I bailed. I couldn't believe it. Rob, her uncle, told me he knows his sister was wrong for that, but promised Cara doesn't have any negative feelings towards me, and my ex never painted me as some villain, just a young guy who knew he couldn't properly care for her. He asked me not to tell Cara this when we talk, if she asks, and because it could hurt the way she saw her mom. I never actually confirmed I would. Cara messaged me, and we've been talking. I've met her twice, and it's been crazy emotional. Looking at this girl who looks just like me and hurting that we're just barely getting to know each other. So far our conversations have only been about what her life was like, how my life is, what her wants and future goals are, and getting to know each other. We met again Tuesday, and she finally decided to ask the obvious questions about what made me not be involved. How did I feel, what went through my mind, did I ever think about her, etc. I had been thinking about what to do, but in that moment I just didn't have it in me to lie, so I was honest. That I was told about the abortion, had no idea she even existed until now, but that I still really want to be in her life and have the chance to be her father if she wants that. Cara was a bit emotional, we talked some more and said she still wants me involved. At night my messages were blowing up. Not just from Rob but her grandparents as well. They're all outraged for telling Cara about her mom because she yelled at all of them and is refusing to even take their calls. Yes, the lie was terrible, but I just ruined the image she had of her late mother for my own benefit. Rob called me a selfish idiot for not taking into consideration how this would affect Cara finding out about this. So right now I feel like crap. I get honesty is the best policy, but in this case I don't know if I was an idiot for doing it. I'm still learning this whole dad business, so don't know if I dropped the ball here. Not the idiot. How terrible for both you and your daughter. You didn't ruin the image of her mom, you told her the truth. Her mom decided not to abort her and must have loved her immensely. As for the whole family cover-up, she has every right to be mad. She missed out on 19 years with you because of it. I have to ask though, is there a reason why mom didn't want you in the daughter's life then? Was it a bad breakup? It seems like something is missing here. Not the idiot. Your ex robbed you and Cara of 19 years of relationship together. That is a lot to rebuild. To also have Cara believe you left is asking too much. You can't build a solid foundation on a lie. You can now discuss with Cara how her mom thought she was doing the best, even if you both disagree. And that her family followed her mom, and there's no need to punish them. They could have lied again and tell her, we didn't really know the guy, instead of letting you know so you both can establish a relationship. I wish you the very best, you have lots to catch up. Not the idiot. Cara will have to reconcile what she now knows with how she feels about her mother, likely with the help of a therapist, but she deserves to know the truth. Her entire life has had a massive lie at the heart of it up until this point. Imagine trying to keep up that lie while building a relationship with your daughter. That would be unforgivable, in my opinion, and for what? Her mother's family need to face up to what your ex did and the part they've played in it for the past 19 years. And they can start by acknowledging that you are not the bad guy here. She came to me the other day and sat me down and said she'd like to stop taking birth control pills. I said okay, we can use problem, no rubbers. She said no, she doesn't want to use rubbers. When I asked why, she said they don't work 100% of the time, which is fair I guess, but no birth control method works 100% of the time, and that the deed doesn't feel as good. So I said okay, what do you suggest? She said she'd like for me to get a vasectomy. Apparently she did her homework and my insurance covers the entire procedure, which is fair enough I guess, but I'm only 21 and I'm not quite ready to give up my fertility. She said that's not an issue because vasectomies are reversible. I said not all of the time. She got frustrated and said she's sick of the burden being on her, and I said how can that be so when you used birth control long before you met me, and I've always said, if you want to get off it then I'll support you. She said so support me and get the vasectomy. I said absolutely not, if you want to go and get your tubes tied that's okay, and I won't stop you, but I'm not ready to sterilize myself yet. Since that conversation she'll ask me again and again if I've thought about it. At first I said yes and my answer hasn't changed. But she won't quit so I just say no or ignore her. It's so annoying. She won't entertain intrauterine device, and to be honest her reasoning for being against rubbers is kind of suspect. So she asked again just now and I said no, please quit asking me. No matter how many times you ask I'm not changing my mind and that's that, so please stop being ridiculous and let's compromise on this issue. Now she's really angry at me because she's thinking vasectomies are so much easier and I should swallow it up, but if I'm being honest the more she badgers me about it, the more convinced I am not to budge. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. There is a real issue with the onus of preventing unwanted pregnancy usually being placed solely or mostly on women, but that's a systemic issue to do with societal expectations and biological complexities and their impact on the development of contraceptives. It definitely screws. But it's not cool of her to put that on you individually, and it's definitely not cool to demand control over someone else's body this way. It's your body and therefore your choice what to do with it, especially when it's something that has or could have permanent ramifications. Do not give in to her. Not the idiot. Don't run this massive risk of not having kids if having kids is something you're even thinking about for the future. Look man, I normally hate how quick the sub is to call about pulling the plug on a relationship. And I won't flat out suggest it here. However, as others have said, this insistence is really pushing up red flags. I'm not saying this should be a deal breaker right now, but I would seriously consider if you want to sign up for this for life. Problems don't go away when you get married, they magnify. Not the idiot. This is a conversation for a married couple or a couple in a dedicated long-term relationship. I'd say 7+ years. Your girlfriend can do what she wants with her body. The same liberty goes for you. Her birth control is reversible far easier than a vasectomy, which, like you said, isn't 100% reversible. You could break up and end up sterile the rest of your life, not worth it, unless you're 1000% sure you don't want biological kids, ever. You're young, it might be time to move on and let her do her thing while you do yours. Yesterday, my husband's friend came to visit. I told them they could go out just the two of them, but my husband said no, he wanted to just spend the night at home. So at 8:30, I had put the kids to bed, we have 2 toddlers and a baby, and my husband and his friend said they were going to go to the liquor store for some drinks and mixers. The liquor store is only down the street, so when they weren't back by 9:30, I texted my husband and asked him where they were. He replied at about 10:00 and said they were just driving around talking, which I was fine with, but I asked him if he wanted me to stay up and he said yes, they'd be home soon. So by 11:00 I was getting kind of frustrated because I was going to be the one waking up with the kids in the morning and they don't sleep in. So I called them again but no answer. About 15 minutes later he texted me they were almost home for me to wait up. Midnight comes around and I'm pissed and tired, so I decide to go to sleep. I don't like leaving the door unlocked while everyone is sleeping so I locked up, figuring my husband had his keys. I texted him and let him know I was done waiting up and I didn't get a reply. So at about 3 a.m. he wakes me up pissed as hell because I had locked him out. Apparently he was completely embarrassed I had done that. He said it looked disrespectful and they had just gotten caught up talking and lost track of time. He had to break into the downstairs bathroom to get in and apparently messed the window up in the process. He told me I should have known that he didn't have his keys because they hadn't taken his car and I should have checked the key holder before locking the door. Am I the idiot? Let's see. Husband left at 8:30 for the liquor store. Repeatedly tells you he's almost home when you text him to ask what's taking so long. Finally comes home at 3 a.m., 5.5 hours later, and is incensed to find you have locked him out. He says that was a disrespectful thing of you to do. Of course, he also said he was almost home and that he just wanted to spend the night at home. Not the idiot. Your husband needs to start saying what he means and meaning what he says, because he doesn't appear to be terribly good at it thus far. Not the idiot. Wow, your hubby owes you flowers and an apology. You locked the door after telling him you were going to sleep since it was midnight and he didn't get home for another 3 hours and he feels disrespected. Don't argue, don't debate. If he is going out, he needs to take his keys, period. The person that was actually disrespected was the tired wife staying at home with his children that was asked to remain awake with her thumb in her back to welcome her husband home whenever he freaking felt like gracing her with his presence. I might have left the door unlocked and gone to bed, but I'm not a woman home alone with 3 little ones, and I don't know your neighborhood. That's your judgment call to make, and you made it. Hubie doesn't get to make any excuses. You checked in with him regularly, and he decided to stay out until 3 a.m. anyway after several false statements. He's a grown man and he made his own choices, you had to make yours. Allegedly he's out drinking and driving until 3 a.m., so he's a real piece of work. I think he's lying and they were hanging out at a club. Not the idiot. I dined in at a local Chinese restaurant with a friend. Great food, but almost no interactions were made with any of the waitresses other than being given the food, as you had to reserve your table position online in advance, as well as place your order online once finally seated due to COVID safety measures. The bill came out to be just about $30, and I tipped just a little above 15%, giving $5. Our waitress took the bill from our table, paid for in cash, and as we were readying to get up and leave, she returned with a $5 bill we left to cover the tip and in a passive-aggressive tone saying, "Was something wrong with the food? Where's the rest of the tip?" I didn't appreciate that we were even approached at all, and I was shocked and confused that an interaction as such even happened, as I recall it being the very first time I was confronted for not tipping enough, as my usual 15% tip suffices in past restaurant experiences. In an act of frustration, I took back the $5 I left as a tip from the bill and walked out of the restaurant with my friend without saying a word, despite the waitress trying to get our attention as we walked away. In the moment, we both agreed that it was an insane thing for the waitress to do, acting as if we didn't tip at all. The waitress that had confronted us had been someone we had close to almost no contact with the entire time, as she had only been to our table once to give our food, as I had stated above. But reflecting on it, we were wondering what should have been done in that situation. Ignore her request to tip more and leave the $5 bill as it was, or give a larger tip as she asked just to get the situation over with. I'd love to hear more opinions, and if a situation like this has ever happened to you. Am I the idiot for taking back my tip? Not the idiot. I'm a server and tipping is extremely important to me. That being said, I never look at the tip until the customer has left. Everyone gets the same smile, goodbye and thank you for coming. If they stiffed you, better luck next time, unfortunately. There's been more than one occasion I would have loved to ask or yell or berate someone or to just straight up get a real answer, but I never have. 15% is standard and she gave standard service. You did nothing wrong to take back the tip when she changed the service from standard to being rude to you. Not the idiot, and I can't believe some of these you have to tip 20% comments. Do you guys realize that OP tipped $5 on a $30 bill? Yes, it's not exactly 20% but pretty damn close. And the waitress dared to go up to her with the money in hand and complained about not getting enough money. Yeah, she maybe has to rely on tips to meet month's end, but what does she do to customers who don't tip at all? Does she call the cops on them or vandalize their cars? Not the idiot. UK here, I had a waitress try and tell me they had to round the bill up if I wanted to pay by card. I was willing to overlook the stupidity of that comment if she had tried to round it up to the nearest 5p or even 10p. Nope, she took something like 52.13 and rounded it up to 53. Tipping is not expected in the UK. And I was ready to tip her a fiver until these shenanigans. I complained to the manager, paid the £52.13 and refused to return there. Plenty of good Thai restaurants that don't try and rip you off. I, 25, have been wanting to adopt a dog for about 2 years now. The first year, I adopted my first dog. However, the first week I had her, she had seizures that the shelter forgot to disclose to me, saying they were stress-induced and most likely I just needed to wait it out. Nope. The veterinarian said it was a pre-existing condition and that the shelter should have told me before adoption. I kept her for a month, but eventually, the vet and I had to put her down. This year, I decided to try again and try to get a Corona pup. I have worked from home for about 3 years now anyway, so it's now or never. The second shelter I applied to said that they had an influx of puppy applications as they had several litters come in, so expect a delay. I said that was fine, I was interested in an older dog anyway. They never got back to me, and when I reached out, they told me that my application had been denied for the puppies. I reminded them that I wanted to be considered for one of their older dogs, and they apologized, but all their older dogs had been adopted or were waiting for a meeting the family. The third rescue had a woman visit my house, and she scrutinized everything, but eventually declined my application, citing my neighbor's above-ground pool as a health hazard for the dog I matched with, saying the dog could easily go between jump over my new fence and drown itself. I tried to call the shelter, but they agreed with her. They denied me to even be considered for other dogs. Fourth shelter did a foster to adopt system. I had the dog for 3 days, and then someone from the rescue would come and look him over. They were worried about the brand of dog food I was feeding him, the brand they gave me, and took him back, saying that the brand is known for causing kidney failure with dogs. I eventually said screw it, did some research on a breed I would want, found a great breeder, and put a deposit down for the next litter, possibly next year, as she only breeds her dogs once a year. I told my friends and everyone basically called me out with the adopt, don't shop attitude. I tried to explain the issues I have been having, but they said that shelters have to be picky to avoid dogs coming back. I understand, but I have been burned, and I am not risking getting a sickly dog again, much less dealing with rejection after rejection from the shelters. I get there are a lot of dogs out there, but I have just had such bad experiences from supposedly reputable places to adopt dogs from in my area. Am I the idiot for just giving up and going with a breeder's puppy instead? Not the idiot. Shelters are notorious for over-scrutiny of people adopting from them, or they are here at least. We are still on the waiting list 3 years later for a dog that's suitable to be left alone on occasion due to mine and husband's shift work. We ended up going to the pound, different to the shelter, no home checks or follow-ups, and now have 2 fantastic huskies who have no issues being alone. When we were at the pound, they were telling us of someone else who'd have the same problem, being told they were too old to get a dog because they were 65. Not the idiot, some rescues out there have gotten so high and mighty it's exhausting. I have a cat I adopted years ago. I went to a local rescue to see about getting her a friend, and this particular place has a policy that you can't hold or handle the animals until you've been approved. Okay, sure. So I said, so when my application is approved I can come back and meet the cats in person to make sure we're a good fit, and the other woman, from across the room, very snidely goes, if you get approved. So I bought a cat from a breeder. Not the idiot. I hate don't shop mentality. We should be encouraging good breeders by doing our research, making sure they follow all the health and genetic testing guidelines, meeting the parents, etc., and not buying from pet stores. The amount of crap I get for saying I want a purebred dog next, I've previously had only rescues, because I actually have a purpose for the breeds I want is unreal. Good breeders have their place, as do rescues. Neither option is superior to the other. It's your life and your money, get the dog you want.